Welcome to the Trekking History Channel. Today, let's talk about Seaford, Delaware. Why? Was it a metropolitan center with dozens of truck terminals? No, but I'm going to tell you why Seaford, Delaware has a place in trucking history. I think you'll find it interesting. You won't find this information elsewhere on YouTube, only here. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and after watching the video, leave a comment. It will help let YouTube know you enjoy what I'm doing here, and they will show it to more people. Okay, so what's so important about Seaford, Delaware? Seaford in the mid to late 1930s, the time when I'm talking about, was a farming and seafood packing town, not a trucking community. Between 1930 to 1940, the population grew from 2,500 to 2,800. But something important happened in the Seaford area in 1936 that relates to the trucking industry, and that's what I want to tell you about. Let's flash back to the period 1935 to 1936. In early August 1935, the Motor Carrier Act was signed into law. For existing individuals and companies already engaged in trucking, they had to apply for a certificate under the grandfather clause by the end of February 1936. Then the applications would sit in Interstate Commerce Commission office for months. Why? It took a long time for the ICC to get things in place to act on the thousands of applications they received. Let me explain the application process to you, and you'll understand why it took so long. And don't worry, the Seaford, Delaware connection to all of this is coming. And be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I'll have a question for you related to what I'm referring to. Feel free to answer in the comments. Okay, let's continue. Each applicant seeking an ICC certificate, permit, or broker license, whether under the grandfather clause or not, was entitled to a hearing. Attending that hearing would be an ICC official, the applicant and or their lawyer, and those opposed the application. The opposing party was usually other trucking companies who did not want to compete in their territory with anyone else. These hearings were scheduled in advance and held in the location close to the applicant. During these hearings, the applicant could bring or show evidence supporting his desire to be in the trucking business, and the opposition could bring evidence as to why the applicant should be denied authority. What happened in the Seaford, Delaware area? For an area with such a small population, several individuals around the same time applied for ICC authority. 9 in total. Not impressed yet? Hold on, it gets interesting real soon. When the Interstate Commerce Commission started scheduling these hearings, they did not start with application number 1 and take each one numerically. For some reason, in the mid-1936, most of the docket numbers assigned to the applications received from Sussex County and Seaford, Delaware, were in the 50,000 range. The majority were filed close to the same day, mostly at the end of April 1936, later than the cutoff date for those seeking certificates under the grandfather clause. Other applications from areas not in Delaware were also among those decided that were also in the 50,000 number range as well. It seems that the ICC picked from a stack and simply started at that point. Here is a listing of 7 Seaford applicants to show the assigned docket numbers. Raymond Bryan got MC 50106. James W. Truitt was assigned 2 digits away, number 50108. John Thomas Merritt received the next one with 50109, and the next consecutive number was assigned to Edward T. Merritt. Now, I have no research to confirm if they were related, but remember, Seaford was a small town, so they were either related or they knew each other. I don't know if it was planned or simply happened. that most of the applications were filed with the ICC on the same days. On April 28, 1936, the applications from 5 Seaford area residents arrived, those being from Raymond Bryant, Frank W. Baker of Delaware, James W. Truitt, and John and Edward Merritt. Others arriving within days were Floyd A. Tull of Sussex County on May 1st, James D. Rollins on May 11th, and Lyndon E. Marvel on May 21st. Remember the hearings I talked about earlier? There were usually 2 each day at each location. In these applications, the hearings were relatively close together. The first one, on December 14, 1936, was for Edward T. Merritt. On January 25, 1937, it was the hearings for Lyndon Marvel and John Merritt. The next day for James Rollins and Edward Hill. James W. Truitt had his on February 4, 1937. On the 16th of February, Frank W. Baker and Norman Church Hedges of nearby Laurel, Delaware, appeared before the ICC seeking a certificate. Now, I want to show you something very interesting on this. I made a chart showing the lawyers who represented both the applicants and the lawyers representing the opposition. And this is where it gets real interesting. The first lawyer listed is C.L. Harmonson. He was the lawyer who represented all of the applicants, every one of them. Now, the lawyers for the protesting opposition was J.W. Oram, H.Z. Maxwell, Bernard N. Gingrich, Glenn F. Morgan, Harry R. Neermond, George W. Nolan, W.T. Garner, R.W. Zug, W.T. Weeks, and D.A. McClure. Now, if I scan over here, you'll see that many of the lawyers were representing the opposition on every one of those who opposed getting the applications. Like, for instance, Bernard Gingrich. He was on every one of them. So was Glenn F. Morgan. This one, Harry Neermond. And this one, W.T. Garner. Those were the ones that represented the opposition on every one of these. Now, let's look at the opposition. Horlacher Delivery Service, Georgia Motor Express, Southern Trunk Lines, the New England Rail Carriers, Alco Express Lines, Railway Express Agency, Middle States Motor Carriers Conference, Victor Lynn Transportation Company, Inland Waterways Transportation, AB&C Motor Transportation Company, Movers and Truckers Association, and the Motor Truck Rate Bureau of Massachusetts. Now, the Southern Trunk Lines and New England Rail Carriers and the Railway Express Agency were all representing the railroads. Alco Express Lines was a trucking company that handled small parcels for the railroads. So, all of these were represented at every opposition, and they correspond to the railroads. Now, this Motor States Motor Carriers Conference, which again was represented each time, that was a association that represented 500 motor carriers. I don't know why they didn't want another trucking company in their area, but they didn't. The next one I want to point out to you is this Victor Lynn Transportation Company. They were a trucking company that had extensive operations in Delaware to the Baltimore area. And you'll see they opposed every single application. Another one I want to point out is this AB&C Motor Transportation Company. They weren't opposed to but two of the applications. And AB&C was a carrier up in the Boston, Massachusetts, down to Rhode Island, Connecticut area. So I found that very interesting. And I want to show you something here. Now the Horlacher Delivery Service and Georgia Motor Express, they only opposed these two up here, which were Lyndon Marvel and John Thomas Merritt, because those two applications also said that they might want to transport freight down into Georgia, which was their territory. Now, one more thing I want to show you. This denied. All these applications, every single one of them, were denied certificates of authority. Every single one of them. Now, every one of these that was denied, all of the applicants were represented by C.L. Harmonson. He didn't win a single case. Now, my question is, and I want your comments in the, I want your answers in the comments. If all of these people in the Seaford, Delaware area were represented by the same lawyer of C.L. Harmonson, don't you think these guys would have corresponded with each other by phone or whatever, since all the hearings were within days of each other? Don't you think they would have called and said, hey, we got a problem. Every one of our certificate applications are being denied, and we're all represented by the same lawyer. Don't you think we need to have a different plan? Something to think about. Well, that concludes the video presentation of the applicants of Seaford, Delaware. Let me know what you think of the video, and let me know the answers to the questions I presented earlier about the same lawyer representing all of the applicants. Talk to you again, and be sure to subscribe so that you get notified of any videos I have coming up next.